Welcome to the CBIA BizCast. I'm your host, Ali Warshavsky, and today on our podcast, we're speaking with Paul Lavoie. He is brand new to the job, the state's newest chief manufacturing officer, and we were just speaking on our way up here that this is day three. And you're still coming into the office, which is good to hear. You're replacing Colin Cooper, who announced his retirement last month now. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, Ali.
It's great to have you here, and we're going to take you back to your last job, even though I'm sure this new job is the first thing that's on your mind. You most recently served as general manager of Carey Manufacturing, but when we asked you a few weeks ago if you could ever imagine being the state's chief manufacturing officer, you said no. So why is that?
Well, it's interesting. We don't always get to choose our path through life, right? And I think that one of the lessons that I've learned is just to keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities. Opportunities can certainly present themselves in any way, shape, or form. But I've been involved in manufacturing for 10 years out of my career. So I used to own a marketing agency, and I've owned some businesses and worked in some other industries, but have been in manufacturing for 10 years. And absolutely fell in love with manufacturing. I often say my only regret is I didn't find it earlier in my career, because a good day for me is usually in the afternoon was to just get up and walk the manufacturing floor and get to talk to people and watch us actually make something and actually produce parts. So fell in love with manufacturing, was a very big supporter of the chief manufacturing officer position. Was very happy they selected Colin 2 years ago for the inaugural position, and really it's all about timing. Timing just happened to be right as Colin announced his retirement, and we started the conversations. It kind of popped up as to, I think I would really like to be the next chief manufacturing officer. I think that would. I'm passionate about manufacturing. I'm passionate about the state of Connecticut. I want all manufacturers to succeed. I want our state to succeed. So it kind of started that little spark, and from that spark, here I am. I'm the next chief manufacturing officer. So
must feel good to say that, and also I think it's probably better being the second, right? Because Colin could experiment, let you know the ins and outs, and then you can come on in with watching him do it.
To follow in Colin's footsteps is a big task. He has certainly put his imprint on the position. Again, like you said, it was nothing. It hadn't. It's interesting in talking to Colin, and obviously spending a lot of time with him now, and asking him about his first couple of weeks. He goes, the first couple of weeks, I was just staring at my calendar. There's nothing on there, and I'll just give you, I had an 8:30 meeting today, a 9 o'clock, a 10 o'clock. I hustled over here. I have a couple of more meetings. So I'm as we were talking about, I feel like I've jumped on the treadmill while it's going at full steam, and I'm just running. So yeah.
And as we record, this is the first day of the legislative session, so
That's
I'm
correct.
sure you'll have a lot more on your plate. But before we get into that, when you were at Carey Manufacturing, what do you think one of your biggest accomplishments was? I know when you spoke with us for a print article, one of your biggest tasks was to reshore businesses. It seems like it's something you did well, but for those of us who don't know what that means, what is that? What would you have a big part in doing?
Yeah, so really a couple of things that we did at Carey Manufacturing that were notable, and that in 2001 we have two catalogs at Carey Manufacturing. One was always manufactured in the U.S. That's called Amatom Electronic Hardware. Carey Manufacturing catalog we sent to China in 2001. In 2016, Jack Carey had a vision to bring that manufacturing back to the States. And I joined in 2017. And then family members joined the company as well. So it was really, my job was to certainly help build that manufacturing operation, but also prepare the next generation to take over in a family business as well. So we went from zero to a full manufacturing operation. And, we're at the point now where 80% of the catalog is manufactured here in Connecticut. We're buying raw materials here in Connecticut. We're doing all of our Carey Manufacturing is doing all of their finishing and supply chain work here in Connecticut. So it really is a great story of really just saying, listen, we can make it here, we can be cost competitive, but we also have better quality, better service, and a fair and competitive price. So that was really, just building that manufacturing operation from scratch in our facility. The second biggest thing would be all around workforce development, and really the work that we did on workforce development. Carey Manufacturing was awarded the CBIA Workforce Innovator Award last year, which we were very proud to get. And it really was around our kind of unique and innovative way to make sure that we were fully and happily staffed. And so I was passionate about workforce development, which is another area that I think will serve me well as Chief Manufacturing Officer.
Yes, I'm sure that's probably something that you'll be worrying about a lot over the next few years. Our CBIA survey showed this year that 80% of employers are worried about the workforce shortage and retaining their employees, which is one of your 5 objectives you said as you were taking over as a chief manufacturing officer was labor shortage. I have it down right here. But this is something the manufacturing industry's been seeing for years. Some industries are just feeling it, but this is not something that's a surprise to you. It's probably just been escalated a little bit by the pandemic.
Yeah, it certainly has been. It's a problem that took a long time in the creation of the problem, and it's a problem that's going to take a long time to solve. We have to start getting people to understand that manufacturing is clean and green, and manufacturing isn't your father's or grandfather's idea of manufacturing anymore. That we need a whole different skill set to be able to run a manufacturing business these days. And then we need to do that. We need to take that and do that all the way back at the middle school level. We need to start exposing children and parents to the fact that you can build a very nice career in manufacturing. You can have a very nice lifestyle by having a career in manufacturing. And you don't have to necessarily go to college. You can go to a technical school. You can go to certainly one of our great community colleges. You don't need a 4-year degree, but it also doesn't mean that when you get into manufacturing, you're going to stop learning, right? The only time that learn comes before earn is in the dictionary, right? So you've got to, there's always going to be opportunities for education in manufacturing because we're just moving at a great pace as well. Industry 4.0, a lot of new technologies that are coming in. So I think we have to be better storytellers. We have to really engage with that. People in manufacturing look like everybody. I say this all the time. We at Carey Manufacturing, we would send somebody to speak at a trade school, to speak to a group of students. And I would send a Hispanic female to go. I said, because they don't want to hear from me. My story doesn't resonate with them. Millie's story or Patricia's story will resonate with them. So they need to understand those stories and then get a vision that there'll be this long career in manufacturing. So it's solving the workforce development problem. Where manufacturing is an industry in search of employees, right? We have the work, we have the jobs, we have the available. There's Hearts and Mind campaign, the things that we're doing with the Manufacturing Innovation Fund with apprenticeship, incumbent worker training, career fairs, internships, all of that work, and then certainly the Office of Workforce Strategy and Kelly Marie Valeris and all the work that's doing there. We need to consolidate resources that we have. We have so many people here in the state doing so many great things around workforce development, but we're going this way and that way and this way and that way and that way, and we all just need to kind of get on the same highway and get moving in the right direction. And we've made significant progress, but there's a long road ahead of us to do that. So the vision is, quite frankly, that every manufacturing job is filled with a qualified employee. It sounds simple, but it's really not.
I know it, and something that several manufacturers we've had on this BizCast and spoken to in the past 2 months have said is a lot of what people are learning now, it's more than pushing a button. It's something that is a skill that is more exciting to learn and obviously has a path of growth and a great salary to it, which is something that I think trade schools and even community colleges are trying to make more known, right? That misconception that you might be on a trade floor hitting a button all day. It's just not that anymore.
It's not that. And then the other thing we need to look at as it relates to workforce development is we need to consider the environment that we're bringing new employees into. I said this at the manufacturing summit. The person who had to change the most at Carey Manufacturing was me. Right, so it's we were bringing in new young employees, new employees into the environment. We needed to change the environment so that they felt valued, they felt respected, we met their needs. Long gone are the days of the factories of the 50s and 60s where you come in, punch your time clock, go to lunch at a certain time, and all this stuff. It really is about flexibility, and it really is about value. It's all about Do I feel valued? Do I feel important? And do I have some level of flexibility to juggle everything that I have going on in my life? So I think we need to train. People who own manufacturing businesses. I think at some point in time, we're trying to put square pegs in round holes, and I think we need to match the pegs to the holes as it relates to workforce development. So
I'm sure that you'll be touring all these manufacturers as your job continues. You're only 3 days in, but I know that from seeing Horst in East Hartford and even Sikorsky, I mean, Horst incorporates this big track now. So if you're on your lunch break, you can take a nice long walk. It's all open. You can see the outside, and that was a nice change. And then Sikorsky was talking about, shifts that were flexible. So if you had to do remote learning. So I at least know 2 that are heading in a different direction. I'm sure there are many more, but you did just touch on this, a healthy manufacturing ecosystem. How do you do that in this role? How do you create one of those?
So it really is, in looking at that, we're all dependent, in manufacturing to some degree, we're all dependent upon each other. And I'm dependent upon my steel manufacturers at Carey Manufacturing. I'm dependent on companies that I have doing finishing and things like that. So there's no island. Nobody's doing anything specifically on their own. So you're starting to look at and if you're in the supply chain for some of the larger manufacturers, there are requirements like Department of Defense requirements that are coming out. So we've got some initiatives that are going on, like the Digital Model Initiative, I 4.0 working group that I served on as Carey Manufacturing, and then I'll served on as Chief Manufacturing Officer. And it really is looking at how do we develop playbooks to strengthen supply chains? How do we develop tools that are able to strengthen supply chains? If you're running a 50-person manufacturing business, you get overwhelmed with all of these things that you need to start thinking about. I used to joke at Carey Manufacturing that we were stuck in all 4 industrial revolutions. Right? There's 4 industrial revolutions. We had manual machines that we were using. We had presses, hydraulic presses that were done with electricity. We had CNC machines, and then we had high-end Trump machines that, Internet of Things and machines that could talk to each other. So you look at a typical manufacturer in Connecticut, there's 4,000 of them, but most of them are smaller in size. We really have to look at how do we give those smaller manufacturers tools to be able to strengthen them so that we build the ecosystem from the ground up. I'm not really worried that Sikorsky or Electric Boat or Pratt & Whitney is going to, have the resources to be able to invest in research and development and all of those things. I think that the state has a great opportunity to provide tools for the supply chain, and I think the Chief Manufacturing Officer can help be a driver of that.
And then you mentioned like the Internet of Things. That's a big innovative topic right now. I know we had Hartford, a steam boiler on, and they spoke about their lab in partnership with the University of Hartford. And one of your priorities is establishing a culture of innovation. Is that what you think of when you think of innovation?
That's one of the things. Certainly when we talk about a culture of innovation, Connecticut is, one of our biggest strengths is our workforce and the intellectual level of our workforce. That high intellectual level leads to insights. Right? Those insights lead to innovation, and then innovation leads to more intelligence. We need to continue to make sure that we have a healthy environment for innovation, but we also need to make sure that we're connecting those innovators to Connecticut manufacturers. The whole idea is that if it's invented here, we want it made here, and that's one of the initiatives in the Manufacturing Innovation Fund is to be able to connect those innovators with manufacturers. So, we have a very strong culture of innovation in Connecticut. We want to continue to make sure that we foster that, but we also want to make sure that we're connecting those innovators to our manufacturers. Again, if it's invented here, let's make it here.
Yeah, we do have an ecosystem of, like you said, extremely smart individuals. We do have Yale here. We do have a lot of schools in the state that have engineering programs and can be that talent pipeline if we work it the right way. Now, your last 2 initiatives, 4 and 5, better communication and simplification. I think every company in Connecticut probably has that on their list as something they want to improve. But how do you want to do that when it comes to your office in manufacturing?
Sure. So as it relates to communication, we want to have consistent messaging across kind of all of the stakeholders as it relates to what our initiatives are. We want to make sure that in workforce development that we're all saying the same things around workforce development, the same things around innovation, the same things around the supply chain. But we want to make sure that we want to be able to engage with manufacturers. Once we're able to engage with them so they can understand what resources are available to them, then we want to be able to educate them. If we can better educate them as to what resources are available to them, and then we can enable them. Again, and the whole idea is really to be successful. So, how do we basically take everything that we're doing and communicate that in such a way that manufacturers know certainly what is available to them, but what tools that they can use. Associations are a great way to do that. The CMC and all of the associations, Colin was great at when he talked to a manufacturer, he'd say, what association do you belong to? And if they say none, his immediate response was, you need to be, because that's where you're going to get your information. But we need to be, gently relentless in our communication about everything that's going on. One of the things that I think that we know in advertising and marketing, and one of the part of the MIF fund is there's a Hearts and Mind campaign that I'm excited to really take a look at, is that we need to have a consistent, repeatable message, because it just takes people a long time before they'll really kind of understand what we're doing. It's never just a one and done as it relates to communication. We need to be consistent, repeatable, again, the whole relentless in our communication to make sure that manufacturers understand what's available to them. And then as it relates to simplify and kind of really consolidate and simplify, again, lots of people doing lots of things, moving in lots of different directions. Let's get all on the same boat. Let's get all rowing in the right direction. That's how we're going to solve our problems. That's how we're going to grow manufacturing. The objective is to be able to grow manufacturing in Connecticut.
And we had Colin on a few weeks ago, and I asked him what he would tell you as you go into this role. He said, "Don't take it." No, I'm just kidding. He said, "Build a team.
Yep.
Make sure that you build a team." But I'm sure you guys have had a lot of conversations. You'll continue to. What's some advice he did give to you as you take on this role?
So I did listen to that podcast, by the way, the BizCast. I did listen to, I think the other morning on the way to work, I said, let's see what Colin has to say. His advice to me is to really reach out to the stakeholders in manufacturing, to be available, obviously, but to reach out to stakeholders, to introduce myself. I'm fairly well known in manufacturing circles, but I'm certainly areas that I'm not. So it really is to just engage with people because when Colin talks about a team, it's not necessarily a team in the sense that, I'm a department of one, right, in DECD, but I will work with and through hundreds of people. So it really is, how do I build that team and engage with that team? The other advice that, I've spent a fair amount of time with Colin. So as I was interested in the position, I started showing up where Colin was speaking, and just to kind of get a little bit of flavor for the position and some of the things that were going on. And it just really is to listen well and to advocate and represent manufacturers well. So.
And I said this like 5 times already, but you are going to be seeing a lot of manufacturers in the state.
I'm looking forward to that.
But you're from here, and you've worked in manufacturing. Is there something in Connecticut that people might not know is manufactured here that you think is surprising?
Oh, I'm surprised by that all the time, as to kind of what's manufactured here that we wouldn't necessarily know about. We were at Mott Corporation, and they had parts that were on the Mars Land Rover. Who knew that in Farmington, Connecticut, we're making parts that go on, that go to Mars, and again, that's I've had one manufacturing visit since since I've taken the job, and already I was surprised. Companies like Carey Manufacturing. We made handles that went on black boxes that went on Boeing aircraft. We did, right. We had nothing to do with the black boxes and nothing to do with the aircraft, and it was 6 levels removed from Boeing. But you're a lot of times in manufacturing, you're making parts along the supply chain. You're not really sure where they're going. When I was working Carey, the thing that I would always ask my customers is, what are we using this for? Where's this actually going? What am I doing? Like, I'm making this part. What am I doing? And then we made simple parts, latches that go on first aid kits. That's the way I describe Carey Manufacturing. If you ever opened a first aid kit, you probably know who we are. We're that little latch, And so from those kinds of perspective, there were parts at Mott that were in the U.S. air flight that Captain Sullenberg, landed in the Hudson River.
Wow.
Yeah. So they sent a letter with the part that they had made. It's in their lobby. So I think one of the things that I'm actually looking forward to is visiting manufacturers, engaging with our manufacturers, and really learning about everything that and sharing that information with the rest of the manufacturing community. I mean, did you know Connecticut makes listen, we make helicopters for the President of the United States. We make submarines for the U.S. Navy that protect national security. We make jet engines, and those are just three. You can go to Pez Manufacturing in Orange, and you can kind of start and go through the long list of exciting things that are made here. Every night when I have my cup of Bigelow tea, it's manufactured right here in Connecticut. So Connecticut has a long history of great manufacturing, and I'm really looking forward to helping grow that.
And my last question is just, the state today, legislative session begins. I know CBIA is fighting for a tax credit for manufacturers to have a growth program through schools and training programs. What can be done in this legislative session that would benefit the state's manufacturers?
Well, apprentice tax credits are certainly important for manufacturers. I really, as it relates to legislative issues in this position, I really need to listen to manufacturers to understand really what some of their needs and concerns are. And then really in this job, it's if I'm asked, to really give to be able to give my opinion, and to be able to be the voice of manufacturers. More importantly, I think when I'm asked, not to necessarily advocate or not advocate for a certain position. So it's really to kind of serve as that bridge legislatively to say, this is what manufacturers think are important, and then to see how that really lines up with the governor's priorities. So it really is listening and then providing that feedback when important and when asked.
Well, congratulations on the role. Happy third day.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you more as an organization, and also some more conversations like this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot that we can talk about in the upcoming months. So thank you for coming on the BizCast.
Thank you very much for having me, Ali.
And thank you for listening to this week's BizCast. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, YouTube, SoundCloud, and for more episodes, visit CBIA.com.